Well, how's it going there, anyone? It's me, the crusty old crow, back again doing another one of his reviews to satisfy himself more than anything else. The one take review I call the tactical perspective. All right, and it's a toy review on the G.I. Joe 6-inch classified series by Hasbro. This is my third video. I've done two so far. I did one on Stalker to get the last one was on Stalker, where I referred to them as part of my holy trinity of the must-have Joes. The first one being Rock and Roll was the first video I did, but the third one's going to be Breaker, who I wanted to do a little bit like third in the order there, or fourth in the order, but I'm going to do him now because he is also part of that holy trinity I talked about in the Stalker video. The top three Recce kind of guys that I really wanted to have in my list. Breaker was one I had to have, and man, did I ever go through a hell of a time trying to get him. But I did get him. I wound up getting him part of as a package deal with a Cobra coil that I already had, but now I've got a second Cobra coil, which is great for army building. But Breaker, I had watched the other reviews and I knew what to expect, and I had already had a plan. So today we're going to go over Breaker, and we're going to do this in the same format I always do it, which is to review the figure from head to toe, do it in an inspection style, talking about the things we like and the things we don't like as we go by. But I'm going to be focusing more on the tactical sensibility of things, whether or not this makes him a sensible character or just a very creative character, which Hasbro has lots of those too. That, you know, with my military experience, I would say these are the guys I'm used to saying, and there's a whole bunch of G.I. Joe and Cobra figures that I would have never seen in my time in the military, but that's okay because they're creative. Anyways, we'll go over that, and I'm going to give this guy a grading on two different scales, one on their playability and then two on their tactical sense, tactical grade. Clearly, I've got two things on the go here. I've got Breaker, one of my faves, and I've got the Ram motorcycle that he comes with. And this is probably one of the oldest kits I remember ever having when I was a kid. It's number 13 in the set. I didn't even have the box out and ready. Oh my God, I was not prepared. I thought I was. But here it is. Oh, that's the Cobra coil. Pardon me. There it is. Pardon me. This is the box here, and you can see the art. You can see Breaker getting in on that Ram. Okay, and like I said, it's actually number 29 in the series. I don't talk a whole lot about the box. I don't talk about a whole lot about the articulation, because all the other videos that I spend my time watching religiously, they focus a lot on that, and it becomes redundant. And I'm just here to talk about, just how a veteran looks at these things. That's about it. So Breaker, let's go head to toe with Breaker here. Really quickly, starting at the head, we're going to start with this nice little comms helmet that he comes with, his riding helmet, right? So he's got that polarized looking visor. You can see right up top here, that centerpiece, that's an NVG mount for night vision goggles. Okay, so that's where they would mount that. And then you've got all the tech pieces fitting onto where headphones traditionally fit onto. So this is his comms helmet. There is no comms backpack with it, so I think this is a degree of creativity. There's no, backpack for him with the radio in it for him to plug it into. And he's got that mic there, by the way, which is really cool. Nice little feature, nice little touch. But yeah, without the radio to plug it into, you have to believe that this headset has to be a self-sufficient comm set. And it's got that little antenna here. I don't know if I pointed that out or not, but I'll do it now. Little antenna here. And I, as a military guy, I'd be questioning, just what the broadcast radius is or range of this thing would be. But, in G.I. Joe world, that could be talking to a space station for all I care. So that's the helmet he comes with. And then he's got that sweet, sweet flow. Let's pull him up and have a look. I have immediately decided that this is a Jake Gyllenhaal figure. This was the head I pictured Hasbro looking at when they decided to make a Mysterio Marvel Legends based off the Spider-Man movie. And this would be the head that they went with if they hadn't gone with the glass dome instead. But overall, sweet flow. And he's got that nice trim beard. This is a military standard beard, if ever I saw one. Rock and Roll kind of pushed it with his beard. He had a bit of shag going on, like a bit of length. That would be acceptable, you know, in a theater of, you know, deployment or somewhere, maybe, if you had been on a forward operating base, but it would be assumed you would go back to this, a more groomed, trim standard. Yeah, his hair is a bit long, and I know in our Canadian military we've allowed this now, and nothing wrong with that, I guess. But yeah, longer hair, very well defined. But unlike with Rock and Roll, as I pointed out in my first video, our friend Breaker here, he does not suffer from the same thing. Oh, sorry, he just moved off camera. Get your hair back in there. He does not suffer from the same ailment that Rock and Roll does, which is what I called helmet hair. He doesn't have that. Rock and Roll, when you looked at him, he had this ridge line right here, and along the sides, you could notice right around, it was almost like a bowl where his helmet sat, and it was very natural and very realistic of somebody wearing their helmet all day and taking it off. Breaker doesn't have that. His flow is too slick, too sweet. He's using too much good product in there. Helmet hair just doesn't happen for him, clearly. All right, and I did notice with the expression on his face too, right? Like he doesn't have this hard, serious expression on his face like some of the other guys do. Like if you were to say look at Stalker or the others, he's not grinning, he's not smiling, but there's almost like a smirk. It's almost like a smirk. So I picture him having heard something on the radio that's keeping him kind of amused. Maybe somebody's done something really dumb and he's heard it on the radio, and that's helping him pass the time while he waits to get called in on the RAM. All right, so that's the head overall, and the articulation, like I said, I'm not going to go into it. It is your standard G.I. Joe 6-inch masterful articulation. So I go into the chest, and this is probably, you know, from the neck down, and even with that helmet, this is why everybody looks at Breaker probably and says, this is a great army builder figure for the Joes, because it really is. You've got the standard olive drab green stuff. You've got the mag pouches. I'm going to talk about all this in detail in a minute. You know, my videos tend to be about a half hour, and that's because I have a lot to say about this, you know. And I make no apologies for that. I own it. You know, this is just something I'm doing to amuse myself more than anything. But, you know, maybe you guys want to hear what a military guy thinks of some of this kit. So when I look at this chest rig and I see the Army Builder potential, I also see probably one of the smartest G.I. Joes in the current lineup right now. And it's for one major reason. He is one of the few, if not the only G.I. Joe I've seen, definitely the only one in my collection, I think, that's wearing a flak vest, an actual flak vest under his tactical vest. Okay, so when I deployed to Kosovo in 1999, I was using Canada's older web gear system and flak vest system. So I had a Velcro vest that I strapped on, and this had a bunch of like flexible but ballistic resistant material. It was a frag vest, so it wasn't going to stop a bullet per se, but it would definitely slow it down, right? Or definitely grenade shrapnel and everything like that. It was part of our life-saving kit. We didn't roll out the gate without that thing on because you never knew what was going to happen. You're a soldier. And then we wore our webbing over it. So as you can look at Breaker right now, he's got a frag vest under there, and then he's got the webbing, or the tactical vest. Now, the other side of this is this could be actually just a very different tactical vest assembly, a really thick one where they've got the frag vest incorporated in it. But it was one of my big burning issues with the Joes is these guys are going out with almost no ballistic armor whatsoever. And I'm like, you're going into firefights, you're going to put plates in your chest. Like most guys have a plate carrier in their breast and on their back to protect them. And I was thinking, my God, I don't know if Hasbro did watch Black Hawk Down at all, but there was a prime example of why you go in with that stuff, right? So anyways, enough about that. The other joke about this one, while they are beautifully sculpted and perfectly purposeful, is the mag pouches. And the reason being is if you guys have already seen this figure, you already know. But if you haven't, Breaker doesn't come with this gun. He doesn't come with any gun whatsoever. I had to add this gun. It came from a McFarlane's military line toy that had been busted up during a move, and I decided to salvage it for parts. But this gun was absolutely had to be Breakers for a couple of reasons. One, it had the retracting stock, which meant that this gun could be compressed down. Yeah, it had the M203 grenade launcher on it, but you know, I'm not going to cut it off. But it made the gun's footprint possibly smaller if it actually did compress. And it had the sling, which makes sense for a guy riding his motorcycle. You need a slung weapon if you're going to have a rifle, or you need a good holster if you're going to have a pistol, right? But he needed to have a rifle because he's got these beautiful mag pouches. And yet, when they released him, he didn't have anything but his helmet and a bike with the Gatling gun, which you would say Breaker could rely on that Gatling gun. Well, yeah, we'll get into the Ram later, but what happens if the bike gets destroyed and he's left on the battlefield by himself? Or, Lord help him, he's fighting that bike for 15 minutes straight and he's run out of ammo. Then what? Okay, anyways, enough about the vest. It'll sidetrack a little bit. Arms, great thing with the arms. I love the arms on this. They're very natural. They're very relaxed with the sleeves kind of half rolled up, half down. Kind of thing. That's something that you definitely can do with the modern fatigues. He's got those elbow pads, or does he have elbow pads? He's got a elbow pad. I don't think he's got two. I think he's just got the one. Yeah, he's just got the one elbow pad on his left elbow, right? So he's a left turner for sure, because that's the elbow he'd be dragging on the ground. Or that's his favorite, he's a right-handed shooter, and that's his supporting arm, and he uses that elbow to help support the rifle when he's lying on the ground, right? So that's a cool little detail they threw in there, was the singular elbow pad. I kind of thought they had two, but I was going to speak to it anyways. The glove and the watch, we saw this again, I think, with Outback, his figurine. Just good sculpts with that watch. And the gloves, they... if you looked at a lot of the Joe gloves, they're another nice little detail that people might not have noticed, or military guys might go, oh, wow, I'm so glad they included that. If you have a look at the gloves on him, just along the knuckle line, let's see if we can see it there. There you go. It's got those extra padding hard points for the knuckles, just like the tactical gloves we'd wear overseas when you were out and about doing your deal, right? A more durable glove, more like a work glove, but with breathable material. So it was just a nice little detail that they threw in there. Definitely adding points with the tactical sensibility with it. I'm just going to go back and down the figurine now. And he came off the base, by the way. As I mentioned in other videos, they don't come with bases, guys. I had to buy mine at the local game store, but they're not expensive, and they are worth it for posability and playability, obviously. So I talked about the vest. I've talked about his arms and his gloves. One thing I would have liked to have seen on his arms, they did this with Outback. They took that couple seconds to go, well, we've got exposed skin here. Can we do something with it, right? So you can expect a tattoo, or you can expect some arm hair. In Breaker's case, you got nothing. But what I kind of would have liked to have seen was maybe just like a wrist pad, with like a little Velcro flap sculpted, where he could keep his radio frequencies that he uses to hop on other nets to talk to aircraft or artillery or friendly units from other countries. You know, he'd have to have those references somewhere. Yeah, they're probably slipped into his vest, but I think it would have been a cool little thing to have slid on his arm. Or, you know, G.I. Joe the F out of this and apply science, and just give him like a little tech pad or something, you know, something along those lines. But, you know, overall, it doesn't dissatisfy me at all that he's come the way he is. And, you know, I had a comment on one of my other videos about how much I ask for the price of the figure. Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. I do kind of look at details and go, well, you know, would it cost them this, or would it not? You know, I don't think the details I often add are going to put them up in price points, but if it does, I mean, they just put them into the next box set line, right? Like the current Snow Job, or Scrap Iron, or the Snake Eyes with Timber, you know, that sort of thing. With this one, however, he did come with that, what's that little thing? Oh yeah, a motorcycle. I'll finish up with his legs before that, and then I'll talk about that motorcycle a bit. So if you look at his pants, I'm sure we've seen these pants on others before. They're pretty nondescript, generic military style cargo pants. These ones look good for riding. They look like they're set up durably. And he's got those hard knee pads, right, for cornering and slipping off and whatnot. Good. Boots, perfectly military-esque, very good detail to them. You can see the texture of them, right, and the lacing, right? Another reason why I wanted to get Breaker done and out of the way was because I have a few conversions I'm going to be doing to him for sure. Just to get him just a little bit more realistic. Nothing groundbreaking, but he's definitely getting a holster. He's definitely getting some sort of close combat, pistol. I'm thinking about rigging it either to his chest or to the small of his back, so it doesn't interfere with the articulation of the actual figure and its interaction with the cycle as it was designed. And then, a bit of shading pencils, guys, go a long way with these figures and their accessories. I have a bunch of shading pencils. I'm going to do a separate video another time of all the conversions that I have planned and some that I've already got going here, but that'll be a separate time. So let's move on to the Ram cycle for a sec here, which, man, I'm going to tell you two little quick stories. One about the Ram cycle was, it was the first real affordable Joe vehicle that came out. It was just below the price points on the Vamp. If you think like a size drink, you had small, medium, large. This one was small going on to the medium set, right? But it didn't come with a figure, which made it affordable for parents to buy it for their kids. And my mom was a single mom, putting herself through college and then nursing and raising me. So I mean, like, for her to go out and buy me this bike was pretty cool, and it was my first real small vehicle that I got. The figure Breaker himself was actually the very first G.I. Joe I got, and the funny thing was I felt really ripped off by him by comparison to some of the other figures, but that was all that Kmart had when my grandmother took me there. It was still a love at first sight kind of thing, but Breaker, I had to get it explained to me through my uncle, who was in Air Force. He explained to me that Breaker was the radio operator, and that was a very critical role because he's the guy that calls for the backup and the artillery and the air support and all the important stuff, goes through the radio. So you had to have a Breaker. So I was happy with that. He had the little backpack and the headset and the goggle, but overall, I wasn't impressed with the figure at all, and I couldn't wait to get like Snake Eyes and Stalker and all the others, right? So, but now with military experience, I'm like, Breaker, he was the first for a good reason, because every other G.I. Joe I got came after, and that's like him calling for reinforcements every Christmas, every birthday, the occasional Easter or Tooth Fairy, a new reinforcement would come, and it all started with Breaker, right? So just a little thought musings on the relevance of this. But anyways, with the bike, yeah, so with the old bike, this mirrors it very well. It does add some details that you kind of just pretended were there when you were a kid with the bike originally, right? One of the ones I love the most, the gauge set. You got your gauge cluster right here. They've already highlighted it in red. You could take a little white highlight and just kind of brush that out, a little dry brush. And, you'd get your numbers out and everything like that. You got your gas cap. The steering handlebars, and this is the same with the coil, they're ball set, so they kind of move a little bit to allow other figures with different kind of grips or maybe arm range or what have you to fit. So very versatile, good thing to do that they did that. The other part is that the steering post here, it actually connects to the forks and turns the wheel. So there you go. You got that. Okay, and you've got that transparent visor that I think used to be just black on the bike originally. I'm sure that could pop off if you so wanted, although I don't know why you would. It's got that headlight. Move it back a bit so it's not out of focus. The headlight, you know, nice shiny reflection, no big deal there. But overall, great details. And then the front wheels got a lot of great details. Like it's got the discs, it's got, you know, everything. I'm not a bike guy, guys. I've never actually owned a motorcycle, never got around to riding one. But this was the other thing I really loved about Breaker. In my time with the Recce squadrons in the Canadian Armed Forces, armored regiments, we used to have a trade or a qualification called dispatch rider. Now, we didn't have any big Vulcan cannons on our bikes, so we'll just pop that off, which pops off so much easier than the old 80s one, and is nowhere near as brittle. We'll leave that off to the side. Our bikes were just standard dirt bikes, painted olive drab, and you would take armored recce guys and you would put them on a motorcycle course and let them run around the training area for a couple of weeks and count the broken legs, and those that didn't break their legs graduated to become dispatch rider qualification, which was the way of delivering messages from a Cold War thinking. The idea being that if we ever had gone to war with a nuclear foe, you know, nukes would cause things like EMPs, where radio communications might be difficult, if not impossible, but messages need still be sent, and the dispatch rider would be deployed, right? So he would ride hard, ride fast, just like the old ones on horseback in World War I and the Civil War and what have you, right? So the dispatch rider was a real thing when I got in the Army. I don't know if we still have it now. I don't know if we actually need it or, but I mean, it was there. And it was a really cool course. I wish I had it, but I didn't. So I can't really speak to whether or not the engine on this bike is realistic or not. Looks pretty darn realistic to me. Love the wrapped piping. Notice that, how it looks like it's got that insulated material over the piping to keep him from burning his foot or what have you. It's got the foot posts on either side so you can set your figure on there, right? Right, and then the rear wheel is just as detailed as the back, and you can see the presence of the chain guard decals on there. You got your number 36 on there, whatever that is, and then that serial number, or as Canada would call it, it's CFR. And then look at the chain details. Sorry, I was on this side with the chain. There you go. So you got your highlighted chain, and then I guess this is supposed to be where the toolkit goes. And then you've got your tail light, your brake light, right? Put that back so it's back in focus, at least enough to see the last thing I pointed out, the brake light. And you got your kickstand, thank God, because with the real rubber wheels, as detailed as they are, there's no flat point for it to balance on, right? So it just, kickstands are necessary on the Hasbro bikes. Okay, the Gatling gun, much better than the one we got back in the 80s in that you can actually see the individual barrels on this thing. And it does have the open points for blast effects. If you have the blast effects, what few packs they are becoming available in, definitely worth getting them. This one, definitely going to get that treatment, at least with one of the smoke effects. Okay, and then as you've seen in some of the other photos online, you know, this does pop open relatively easily again. And then it's a lock-in, right? So the actual rear trigger mechanism handle is actually one of the base lock-in points, and you just pluck it out like this, and then you toss this off the side. But even this has like the riveting for steel, right? So you could actually even paint this up to make it look realistic, or have them out maybe even as a ammo, you know, whatever. You can use them in a diorama, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So put those off to the side for now. Look at this cannon. So yeah, you've seen guys like Roadblock carrying them around, and actually the one Roadblock that everybody really likes has this, but it has the required piece that this is missing in the Breaker photos, which is another reason why Breaker needs his own weapon. You've got no ammo drum on this, none, right? And I'm sorry guys, but you could rig some ammo into here, but eventually you're gonna run out, you know. So that's a tactical minus point for me, is this thing is not equipped for a battle. It's equipped for a dog and pony show and to be showed off to the public, but not fired. So, you know, in imagination land, all is good, but from a tactical perspective, this one cost me some points on this thing as far as how I looked at it. and definitely how I looked at those photos of Breaker online. Beautiful photos, just not at somebody I'm calling for backup if I'm in a firefight. I'll probably have to pick up his gun at some point and run. Anyways, just thought I'd point that out. Like I said in the earlier, these snap back in and out, very cool. And I'm just going to leave this out of the shot for now, so it's not obstructing everything as much. So what were the big points about realism with Breaker was, like, as important as his gun was, that it was absence, and I get it. Maybe they were trying to reduce costs. And remember, when it came to G.I. Joe trying to reduce plastic costs, it resulted in one figure being made with very little detail. That was called Snake Eyes, and we all loved it. So I'm not going to criticize too hard here. However, I was kind of wondering, would it be nice if he came with a radio backpack? Because he's got that headset. I can buy in on maybe it's got some range and everything like that. But I'm all about double bank comms when I go out. I'm armored, right? I'm Ricky. I want to be able to make sure that the information I'm sneaking around getting is actually getting passed on. So I would have liked to have seen a more advanced radio on Breaker, because that goes with the character too. Anyone in the room know what the most important thing is? Stalker? That's right, it's the radio. Thanks. And then what? The guns. Yeah. But, you know, having a really cool motorcycle with a nice functional gun with or without ammo, also really cool. And guys, I am not dissing this figure at all. I ain't mad at it. I love this. It was on my Vendetta. So many childhood linked memories. Now I've got that dopamine release. It's off my list of trying to find it. And guys, you might have a hard time finding it. It is one of the earlier releases to this line. And a lot of store shelves have probably pulled it back, but you can find a lot of places to order it. I've seen them going from anywhere from about 60 to 75 Canadian. But like I said, I got mine as part of a package deal, and thank goodness for that. So going over the overall grades on this, you cannot give this thing a bad playability grade. These are one takes, or else I would show you just how easily and naturally he looks sitting on that thing, and just all the cool poses you can do with them and everything like that. Other guys with more knowledge on how to manipulate their stuff can do that. I don't expect many viewers to these to sit through a one take, but if you have, great, thank you. But definitely playability grade A+ all the way. You got a motorcycle at a reasonable price with the sidecar, with the chain gun that you can detach and use in other projects or other characters. It doesn't come with the fly that's flying around in front of my lens, but if you send me your address and link, I'll mail that to you. But definitely on the tactical sense, that's a tough hit, right? So the bike looks good being as it's olive drab, and it's not the Tiger Force one where it's got the bright tiger base paint. That's a separate review when I get that one. It is realistic in that sense. The blackening of the engine and the pipes was important. You don't want to go tactical and have big shiny things hanging off your stuff, catching the sun's reflection and letting everybody know where you are, especially not a reconnaissance dispatch riding bike or anything like that. The big setback is Breaker himself. While he is an amazing looking figurine, and like people are pointing out, a really great idea for an army builder. If you were to swap heads and get those new Joe helmets in there, you're going to have a good character there for sure. But the lack of the firepower, and I think the lack of a radio, an actual radio, as opposed to this tech set, I think that sets him back. And I have to give him a B- on the tactical, at least, just on that. Like I said, I wanted to get his review out of the way, guys, because in another few videos, I'm going to interrupt doing the reviews on all the figures I have, which is quite a few. And I'm going to do a couple of the conversions I've done or detail work, so I can maybe give somebody an idea on how to make these things look just a little bit more realistic. And thanks for watching. If you liked it, please let me know. Hit like. If you subscribe, thanks very much. I appreciate that. And I will talk to you guys later when I do the next video, which will be probably the third in my Holy Trinity, the Recce guys, which I believe I already told you was Recondo. But we'll get to him another time. Until then, have a good day.